get on it right now, and then we'll get it back to you in a few minutes.
We're still a couple minutes before 7, so we're good.
Where is the fearless FFA advisor?
I'm here,
Good
Deb.
question.
Oh, there you are.
Oh, hi, Maria.
Hi.
I'm following an FFA student right now on Instagram from Brooklyn, actually, and he's got a Zoom program series of webinars that is top-notch. Indoor plants specialty right now, although he does a lot of other things, but his programming right now is on indoor plants, and it's
Hi, Shawn.
it's just amazing.
For some reason that disappeared. I can't find it. I have the 519 one that says you'll send me the info around 5.
All right, let me disengage here and we'll get to you.
Sorry about that. I don't know what the hell happened because I checked earlier.
Your sister did it.
Yeah. So, I don't know what's going on.
All right.
So send it to me. Thanks. Bye.
All right. I've got to disengage here. Am I still sharing?
No.
Great. Okay.
Although what's weird is I have an Xfinity. You might be. I'm looking at Xfinity choices on the Xfinity channel, and it's somebody's
Your
screen.
whole screen. So yes, you are.
Yeah, you are sharing, Deb.
All right. Where do I want to unshare? Where did it go?
If you move your mouse to the top of the screen and it says your screen sharing, there should be a stop share button.
Yeah, it disappeared. How do I make this? There we go. Stop share. All right. To our annual, our monthly meeting, and we're welcoming Belknap County tonight is in our spotlight. We have the New Hampshire FFA Association, and we have the Commissioner of Agriculture. For news tonight, we have the National Association of Conservation Districts annual meeting is now up and running virtually, and I hope as many people as possible can get to that. And if Lisa is on, we'll turn the program over to her.
I'd love to introduce her. I don't see all the screen thumbnails. So let's see if she's in the participants list. Lisa is there.
Here.
She's
I am
there.
here. Yes.
All
With the
right.
great background, right. So it's thrilling to introduce Lisa as a New Hampshire native from Guilford, New Hampshire, and now residing in Laconia, which she points out is a whopping 2 miles from Guilford. She has 24 years with conservation districts in New Hampshire. She has an associate's degree in food service management and culinary arts and a Bachelor of Science in environmental conservation. Lisa is the State Conservation Committee representative to the NHDES Lakes Management Advisory Committee. She sits on the board of directors of the Winnisquam Watershed Network, the Belknap Range Conservation Coalition, and the New Hampshire Association of Conservation Commissions. Additionally, she's with the Happy Trails Dog Park of the Lakes Region, and she's a member of the Lakes Region Conservation, Laconia Conservation Commission. Lisa added something in her biography that I think we might ask of more people, because I loved this response in the biography. A little known fact about Lisa is when she was a teenager, she was an exchange student to Tunisia. So it's thrilling to welcome Lisa to put the spotlight on her position with the county. Thanks, Lisa.
Oh, so I am not sure how to make this all big screen, but we can see it, yes?
Yes.
Okay. So the Belknap County Conservation District established on February 14th, 1946, and as many of you may know, we are all celebrating our 75th anniversary this year in New Hampshire. We are a non-regulatory implementer of on-the-ground conservation measures, and you can read the rest of that. We do have an email address that is, aside from my own personal email for the district, belknapconservation@gmail.com. Just take note of that. So early on, I don't have photos from way back in 1946, although a few had surfaced over the years. This most recently was Rick DeMark from, I believe, the 1980s, was the district conservationist with NRCS in Belknap County. And Rick, as district conservationist, was very much responsible for a lot of on-the-ground projects that, interestingly enough, we are still revisiting today and that are informing projects we're doing today. Where he's pointing out now is in Guilford by the airport and Gunstock Brook. Gunstock Brook is a highly erodible brook in some places. You'll see more about that as I continue. Rick was recently retired, and the North Country Resource Conservation and Development Area Council that was part of NRCS sadly is no longer, but Rick is still very involved in a lot of different projects. This is some of the things that Rick implemented. There's a hay, and if you'll notice, there's the constant theme with Rick's projects have to do with uplands just above the lakes. So the airport that Rick had been pointing out, if you look at the photo on our right as we're facing that, that's the airport in the background. And in an earlier photo, Rick was pointing out this parcel. And the Gunstock Brook runs through that, and he's very concerned with the agricultural fields that are shown there, as well as others in the area, making sure that they don't erode. And you see some contour plowing there. And then there's another field that we still have control of today. We have an agreement with the state of New Hampshire, and they are often looking for people to partner with to control state lands with them. This is the Opeechee Bay State Forest. We have a management agreement good until 2036, I believe, for wildlife and agriculture. Back when Rick was working on this, he did a hayfield rehab, and that has maintained itself all the way through to today, where we now have an agreement with the small and beginner farmers, and they hay the field, and they share the hay at a lower cost with their members. They work with, it used to be Dread and now it's Dancer, but they work with Bob Spurl at Dancer for their contract, but we are in charge of the management of the fields. Well, we've had some different, over the years, district managers, and I was going from my memory here. Jan Hooper was the program coordinator, and here's an interesting thing. In some districts, they call them district managers, in some places they call them program coordinators, and in either case, we are the ones that are putting together the programs, and with the guidance of the board of supervisors. Each conservation district has a 5-member board of supervisors. These are people who are members of the residents of the county and who have some form of relationship with agriculture, and they are approved by the state conservation committee. So it's a nomination process. There are other members who support us that are called associate supervisors, and they don't need to be approved by the State Conservation Committee. That would be the local boards. But Jan Hooper was the program coordinator for about 20 years until I believe 2008. And she came from the education background, and so she really took the conservation district from basically being strictly a supporting entity of the Natural Resources Conservation Service, USDA, the affiliate that Rick DeMark worked for as our district conservationist. She really took it from kind of being just a supporting role of that into branching out into on-the-ground projects and education. And with her teaching background, she was really gung-ho on that. And as you can see, she's got her soil maps out, and we were doing soil testing and having the kids dissect soils. And then on the right-hand side, she was talking to the students about soil properties and then having them do a hands-on activity. And I believe she even went and talked to the older gentleman down there to the right of the pavilion afterwards. You see him here. She also developed the district to the point of bringing on additional staff. This is a program assistant we had for many years, position we had for many years, sadly has been cut from funding recently. And her name was Nancy Sapak, and she came from actually the world of displays at the Smithsonian. So we were really lucky to have her. They retired up here. And she did a lot for us in the years that she was with us. When Rick DeMark retired as the district conservationist and moved on to North Country RC&D, I believe the next district conservationist we had was Mike Lynch. And this is Mike giving a presentation on one of those projects that I said, like Jan Hooper started moving us into. This is a combined feeding operation, high use area. All of this farm structure is actually uphill of this pond, and this is called Hunkins Pond. And Jan did a lot to try to aerate the pond. It had a real problem with cyanobacteria because of all the runoff that had been running for years, not only from the farm, but from the road and then neighbors on the other side of the pond. So I don't want to place it all on the farmer, but there was quite a bit there. And Jan tried a lot to work on that, and that's a water testing down there that we were doing. Jan also went to Gunstock. Many of you might have been familiar with this project. This was about 20 years ago that she first implemented this. This is an elevated boardwalk through the wetlands at Gunstock, and that's to enhance their recreation and education information outreach. And so you see here the boardwalk, but also Jan's incredible ability to just rally volunteers to a cause. And she got a lot of people involved. And even when she was on crutches, you see her down in the lower right, she was not about to let that project slide. And she set herself up there and was captaining and commanding all activities for a while on crutches. In the middle down here in the bottom, we have the Student Conservation Association, the SCA. They do a couple of weeks stint off and on for us. We do pay for that, usually through grant funding. And this picture down below is now 20 years on. Some of the sections of the boardwalk are starting to subside into the wetlands. And so these guys are putting in special piles, they're called helical piles, metal framework to help support the wetlands walk. And Gunstock staff was all for it because they have over 300,000 people visit Gunstock in a year, and this is one of their attractions that they know is heavily utilized. We have myself down here as the program coordinator, busy on the phones very often, and so I don't really look like that, but one of the things that I kind of was interested in was Gunstock Brook and the stream morphology. And that Gunstock Brook is in Guilford. It's highly erodible. You had heard in the introduction, I'm from Guilford. I had a great familiarity, and I thought that was a good place to start with a project. So we got the stream study done, and we did do some projects on Gunstock. One of the things that we did early on was have the stream study and tried to do some soil erosion restoration. And then you'll hear a little bit more about what we've done as we've gotten a chairman named Donna Hepp, who's got a tremendous background. She comes to us from the U.S. Forest Service, retired, and her skills really elevated our abilities. The other things I was interested in, as you'd heard, I have a food service background, and so I got involved through UNH with the New Hampshire Farm to School program and the New Hampshire Gleans. And it's an outreach, information, education, but also working with the community. So we did some school gardens. That's one of the raised beds that we did. And in the summer when the kids weren't there, I was harvesting and giving to, free pop-up veggie markets. This is a housing development that I loaded stuff in the back of the truck and drove it up there and said, yep, it's free and here's some recipes. And that was help funded by the grassroots, environmental grassroots fund. And down below, the kids are doing some planting. I have to say, one of our current state representatives, who tends to be fairly conservative, before he got elected, I think he still works there. He works at Lowe's, and he donated all those paint sticks, even though he said, I don't think I'm supposed to do this, but here, it's for the kids. So he had a soft spot, so I really like him now. One of the things that's, I think, ubiquitous with all the districts is fundraising, and our biggest fundraiser, at least in terms of, I want to say now, in terms of commitment, is the tree and shrub sale. And these are some pictures over the years. We don't lock our volunteers up and not let them see the light of day. This happens to be I think a particularly cold day in the bottom left there. But most of our plants are bare root. And so as you see, we have one weekend a year where people who have prepaid orders come and pick them up. And this does help to fund a lot of our projects that we might not get grant funds for, or we need match. We do have a farmer that works with us. So the picture of the cart with the green herbs is our sale at the farm. And they're very helpful with us. We try to mix it up. Sometimes we offer live green plants, and sometimes we have those bare root sticks that you see, and sometimes we have a mix of things. And I talked about Donna Hebb. She's in the upper left-hand corner selling her heart out. Those are the things we call surplus. So we have always a few things left over, and she's really working to make sure that we don't have anything left at the end. We also sell live trout through High on the Hill Trout Farm. They give us a reduced rate. It's not a big fundraising part of it, but it's always fun to have the kids come and see the fish. Some of our projects, as I said, Donna really ramped up a lot of what we were doing, and she is just a phenomenal grant writer, and she is also completely hands-on. These are just some of the few things that Donna's been doing. She helped us with our raised bed gardens installation at an elder facility. She helps with the boardwalk. You see her down on the left there with working with a guy from Gunstock to put in signs. You'll see a little bit more about that. That's like up on a trail. We had to goat hoof it up there we did have a truck, but we still had to hoof it around up there to get stuff implemented. She also helps with the gleaning project. That's blueberries she picked with us that we ended up donating. I think Donna's biggest project and time consumer right now with us is our in-stream wood installations. We're working with Trout Unlimited as our main partner, but certainly towns and others, Fish and Game, to get these assessments done. And also we got a culverts assessment done. And these are some of the pictures from those assessments. Leading up to the assessment then turns around into being implementation of in-stream wood and partnering on the culverts. Maybe Donna would tell you about it later in more depth, but it's really turned into a collaboration between the town, Fish and Game, DES, Trout Unlimited. It's a nice project because we've got so many, and as I said, the town is happy to have that assistance. We have another brook. That first one, Black Brooks, this is off Sambronton. This is in Alton, the other side of the county. Herd Brook, and some pictures from that. That's a little bit shorter in terms of distance for a project, and there's only 3 landowners involved. So at least my assumption in talking with Donna is this is probably not going to be as involved for her, but certainly on the ground with Trout Unlimited, they'll be out there putting wood in streams. These were the signs I talked about at Gunstock. The interpretive signs that we've done. This is carrying on Jan Hooper's legacy of information and recreation out at Gunstock. and the wood and streams. We did pollinator gardens, talking about wetlands, and we put in kiosks. Also, I talked about Nancy, well, I didn't mention her name, Nancy Sapak. Years ago, we had program assistant, and I actually started out as Jan's program assistant, but funding got really tight, and I will sadly report that we were cut another $10,000 this year. So it kind of left it that we didn't have enough money to just hire assistants from our funding from the county. And so Donna has been able to parlay and leverage all the things that we've been doing into grants to help us get some interns. We had an intern last year, Jessica Casterline, who came from Plymouth State, and she's you see helping us with the Gunstock project. And now we've just hired a volunteer coordinator who has a background in education, information, and farming, and also working with volunteers. And our hope is to, her position is the volunteer coordinator for environmental stewardship and food assistance. And we're hoping to create a real collaboration between existing groups that are already doing this kind of work in these two fields and other groups who maybe want to get going and need assistance with volunteers but haven't had the facility yet to get a group under their feet and helping them. So we're hoping Amelia will be able to really bring this ability of collaboration to Belknap County and really give a strong foundation for a lot of groups doing this work to work together. And lastly, we had a wonderful man named John Hodgson who was our chairman for over 30 years, and he is the second generation to have that longevity with us. His father was actually the chairman when we were started back in 1946 and was the chairman for many years. And there was a break. We didn't always have a Hodgson at the helm, but it wasn't long of a break, and John came in, and sadly he passed away last year recently. And we will miss him greatly. So I am done. I don't know if this allows for questions or how you want to do this.
Sure. Does anybody in this group have a question, or do you have a way to put your email contact in the chat box there?
I will do that.
Lisa, in case
Yes,
somebody mulls it over and wants to get back to you later. Meanwhile,
Okay.
are there questions from the group right now? Great historical overview and a great spectrum of photos. Thank you for that, Lisa.
No, thank you, Chris.
All right. And so that will be, her contact will be typed in there, and these programs are also recorded. So people wanting more information or wanting to hear a part again will be able to access this. Thank you. Thank you, Lisa. Are we next with the commissioner or Maria, Dick?
Maria.
Maria is up next. All right, it's a thrill to introduce Maria. She grew up on a farm in Hudson, New Hampshire, and attended Alvern High School, where she developed her love for agricultural education and the FFA. After she completed college, she returned to Alvern to teach horticulture for the next 5 years. Since 1992, she served as executive director of the Granite State FFA and enjoys working with both students and teachers. And that's two very different ways to use your mind and skills, being on both sides of that and looking at all their perspectives, Maria. She's brought with her the 4 officers of the state FFA. We have Laura Mae Swain, who's the president of the Granite State Association of FFA. Laura Mae grew up on a heritage farm in Sanbornton and was active as a member of the Winnisquam FFA chapter. She's now a student at Brigham Young University in Idaho, where she studies business management. And it can be said that Laura loves all things farming. Alex Marcoux is the secretary of the FFA in New Hampshire. He lives with his family in Brentwood, where he raises working steer and produces maple syrup. He graduated from Exeter High School in 2020. He postponed college for a year to work and to serve as FFA's state office position that he's in. And he will be returning to college, starting college as a pre-vet student at State University of New York, Cobleskill, this fall. Kaylee DiRenzo is here tonight with us. She's the state reporter for the Granite State FFA. She graduated from Sanborn Regional High School and is a student now at UNH, here at UNH, majoring in biomedical science. A resident of Fremont, Kaylee enjoys performing community service whenever she can. She plans to one day become a veterinarian. Joe Garcia is here. Joe is completing his second term as an FFA state officer, serving as the parliamentarian. Joe grew up in Stratford, where he was homeschooled, but became an active member of the Co-Brown Northwood Academy FFA chapter. He raises sheep. He's a student at UNH. He studies animal science there. And quite commendably, he works at 3 different dairy farms. So we're thrilled to welcome Maria with the 4 officers. And do you have other students with you tonight, Maria, that you'd like to introduce? Or is this your group?
I think just this 4 showed up. So
well, we shouldn't say just. It's really great to have the 4 officers with us. And we know other students are active as well. They're shoveling snow in their family's driveways. So thank you for being here.
Right. Well, thank you so much for having us. We're very pleased to be here and have this opportunity to talk about FFA with all of you. And I'm going to go ahead and turn it right over to the students.
Alrighty then, I will share my screen for you guys.
All right. Thank you, Kaylee. Hello, everyone. My name is Laura May Swain, and I am serving as the 2020-2021 president of the Granite State FFA Association. Here with me today are 3 of my fellow state officers.
Hello, everyone. My name is Joe Garcia. I'm serving as the 2020-2021 state parliamentarian for the Granite State Association of FFA.
Hi, everybody. My name is Kaylee Lorenzo, and I'm serving as the 2020-2021 state reporter for the Granite State Association of FFA.
Hello, everyone. My name is Alex Marcoux, and I'm serving as this year's state secretary for the Granite State Association of FFA.
We are all so happy to be here talking to you about FFA today.
FFA is an incredibly diverse organization. Our members have different types of backgrounds and interests, everything from farming to science-based pursuits. We also have students with little to no experience in agriculture. FFA is truly meant for all.
Originally, when FFA first started in 1928, the letters stood for Future Farmers of America. At that time, it was exclusively for white farm boys. Over the years, FFA has become much more diverse and inclusive. In order to reflect that, the national organization turned its name to the National FFA Organization in 1988. However, we are still proud to be called Future Farmers.
As you can see, National FFA has over 760,000 FFA members, which consist of members ranging from middle school to high school students. There are also countless alumni and other supporters that support the FFA. In New Hampshire, however, there are 12 active FFA chapters with over 450 members in total for the state.
FFA has 3 main components to its curricular system. The 3 components are your SAE, which stands for Supervised Agricultural Experience, your classroom learning, and, of course, FFA. These 3 components help students develop premier leadership, personal growth, and career success.
This year, there are 8 state officers serving the Granite State Association of FFA. However, the number varies over the years and is based on how many apply and are selected to serve their year of service. Here are the currently serving officers.
These are all the schools that are from each state officer. They come from all over the great Granite State.
Here are the FFA chapters from across the state. As you can see, they range from the Seacoast to the White Mountains and the Connecticut River Valley.
In a typical year, FFA members would be competing in a wide variety of career and leadership development events. as well as social activities. Here are a few examples of these events, which include workshops and trainings.
Fall Leadership Event is a workshop-based event run by the state officers in a normal year. We actually just finished up on producing virtual workshops for our members, which are accessed through our YouTube channel and social media.
Typically, we have a statewide holiday party hosted by one of our FFA chapters. The most recent statewide holiday party was hosted by the Dover FFA chapter back in December of 2019.
Winter Leadership Camp is one of our favorite activities. It's a weekend full of leadership development and workshops for members from across the state to spend time making new friends.
Competitions are an important part of our annual state convention. This year, all our competitions will be virtual. Normally, members would compete at Deerfield Fair, Spring and Fall Interscholastics, at the University of New Hampshire, and State Convention.
The Grand State FFA Convention is the most highly anticipated event for New Hampshire FFA members. This is where they show off their career and leadership skills that they practice and create for the months that lead up to convention. All the chapters make their own chapter display that is judged on presentation and creativity. This is the event where many FFA members get recognized and where a select few serve on the nominating committee that elects certain members to state office.
An important part of convention is recognizing individual members for their achievements. Members can be awarded Green Hand degrees, state degrees, proficiencies, and state stars. All of these awards are based on what members choose to do outside of the classroom.
Our career development events, or CDEs, cover a range of different subjects, whether that be plant or animal science, natural resources, or ag mechanics. Some examples are landscape design, veterinary science, ag marketing, and many more.
Each year, FFA members across the state perform in various types of services in their community. Examples include beach cleanup, donations to animal shelters, town beautification, and participation in community-wide events.
Pride in our country and communities and in understanding how government works is also very important to FFA.
In a typical year, travel is a very important part of FFA membership, including to our national convention in Indianapolis, Indiana.
Every year, a new officer team is selected. They're bound to have tons of fun. State office isn't always about working on leadership events and creating workshops for members, but bonding together as a team.
FFA's mission to develop premier leadership, personal growth, and career success is supported by these goals. Here, FFA has a signature motto that helps students reflect on their actions towards others and themselves. We fully embody this motto of learning to do, doing to learn, earning to live, and living to serve by encouraging self-awareness for members.
Lastly, we really appreciate the time you have given us to talk to you all about FFA. Thank you for coming and listening to our presentation tonight. Are there any questions?
Yeah, my name is Dick Lutz, and I was an FFA advisor for 35 years. It would look really good on your American degree application if you could put down you were an associate member of a conservation district in New Hampshire. So I want you to send me your resume, and I'll send it off to the appropriate district so they can call you to recruit you. So that would be nice if you would do that.
We appreciate that. Thank you.
I can well imagine that you're missing greatly the in-person opportunities. Like, I know that coming up through the ranks, you look forward to the various conferences and conventions. I think that the lemonade out of this might be everything you've had to do via Zoom or online or arranging workshops for other people. It doesn't have the same zest maybe, but I think as far as employment skills or future skills, the fact that you've had to go through this kind of thing is going to give you a lot. It gives us all something to look at life differently than the in-person and reading body language when you're talking and whatnot. I think this program that you've given us tonight shows that you probably weren't fazed by this, that you took it in stride. I'm wondering if you can describe a little bit though about the competitions. Since you couldn't do things in person, how were you able to enter some of these competitions, or did some of them just have to go by the by? You couldn't do some of the shows or some of the things you did. Did something take their place, or how have you navigated through webinars and through Zoom and these kind of things?
Go ahead.
Okay, yeah. So some events are done virtually, and that's with tests. So like our vet science is done with a test. Horse judging, dairy cattle evaluation. Some colleges have put out practice tests for their students, for their judging teams, and some states have worked together and produced a virtual event with those in mind. And then some events that typically are a lot more hands-on, like forestry, tractor driving, stuff like that, that just had to get put on hold this year just because there's no real way that you can, do tractor driving via computer or do forestry events like two-man crosscut or wood split or stuff like that on a computer as well.
Gotcha. Thanks. Good answer. I appreciate your answer. I can picture that response. Thank you. Do we have some other questions for the student leadership group about their FFA? It's work. I'm going to say FFA work.
Very nicely done.
Thank you.
Yeah, very nicely done.
Well, I guess we would like to ask you, is there anything we could do to help the New Hampshire conservation?
I think that, hi, I'm Donna. I'm from Belknap County Conservation District. I think that Dick's suggestion was a good one. If anyone's interested in participating and with the conservation districts, being an associate gives you the opportunity to be able to get engaged, and that's a good one. Another program that we host statewide is an Envirothon program. I don't know if you have you folks heard of that program. It's a competition for high school students on basically knowledge about natural resources. And that competition is an annual one and usually occurs in mid-May. This year, we didn't have a competition last year, but we may, we're moving forward to have a competition this year. So we may be able to take some, tap into your experience with competitions, with remote competitions. So be interested in talking with you further about that.
Yeah, we'd love to help. I know Miss B would also have a lot of the advice that you'd want. She's been organizing most of everything.
There's also, go ahead.
What we're trying to also get at is like, how can we get our chapters to be involved in conservation?
We did that in Vermont in the chapter I had. We did projects with the Conservaiton. We went out for a day and did the grunt work. There were lots of adults around to show us what to do where, and we would supply the muscle and learn how to do it. And then in succeeding years, the more senior members of the chapter would take over those leadership roles and those instructional roles. So if your advisors would contact their local conservation districts, find out what projects need to be done, is it Winnisquam is in the Belknap County area, right? And so
We share
some of you
Belknap.
share Belknap. So that would be a place to go to sign up to help with the stream management. You get a day off for school and play in a stream, fixing it up. There's all kinds of motivations for your age group that don't necessarily work at our age group. But that would be one place you could go. There's 10 districts, so each chapter is in some district. In the case of Winnisquam, that sounds like they're in 2 districts. So they have lots of projects they could get involved with.
I'd like to jump.
Go ahead, Maria.
Thank you. I just want to jump in and say that if you have people in your districts who could reach out to the agriculture teachers, that would be terrific. Most of the teachers are pretty overwhelmed, and they're not as likely as we'd like to see them be to make the effort to reach out to you. But I don't know, I could certainly share our contact list with you, and perhaps you could get people to contact teachers directly when you have a project that you need help with.
So Maria, I'll jump in and tell you that working with Farm to School, that Stacy Perslow from UNH had reached out to Brian Winslow, who is the Southwick School, and talking about trying to work with Rob Cohen, I think it's Rob, is your food service director, and helping him source maybe more local foods. That could be something that could be turned into a project that FFA could help us with. The intern has now completed her term of service and has moved on to Florida, and I am going to be picking up the slack with that. And so in the next week, that's on my to-do list, is to reach back out to Brian and find out where the school's at and food service, and finding out how I can help with contacts. So I may reach out to you. That may be something the students can help with. We're also doing outreach with Holy Trinity School, because they have not gone on hybrid schedule or closed the school, but they want to have a garden, and that may be something we can do as well, and at least during the school year, helping to set up. I don't know, with your students not being involved in the summer, is that true, or do they stay involved with the project through the summer?
It really depends. It's difficult. Sometimes we'll get students who are motivated to do that, but most of them have summer jobs, and most ag teachers have a different job in the summer as well. So it's really harder to get it to continue during.
So, well, I'll certainly be in touch with you in the next week or so, and maybe some of your students would have an interest in connecting about working with Brian and getting a list together for Rob.
Great, sounds good.
Thank you.
Hi, everybody. This is Lloyd. I just wanted to thank you all for being here. I'm from Greenland, but I've been texting and doing screen captures with my brother and my sister-in-law, who are FFA advisors in Michigan, and I've been rubbing it in their face how great you guys did today. I've been like, look at these kids, they're amazing. You guys need to be better. But I wanted to say that what we talk about all the time is the insight that FFA members and people in your position can bring to commissions. People like us. Your experience is different, your knowledge is different, your passions are different. And I'm hoping that we as commissions can work together with FFA, and maybe this is capacity building, Dick, and everybody else on the call, on maybe we can get FFA reps on regular calls with commissions in ways in which that we can, looking for ways in which that we can partner so that they get quality work, not just work where we need work done, but work where FFA members year after year after year after year can help inform commissions and state and local government how we can look to the future in terms of what the needs and the wants of future generations want for our conservation in the state. So great job, everybody. I'm so proud of you. My brother is so mad, and good job.
Another outlet for you might be to consider the what we're calling the Lunch and Learn programs from New Hampshire Association of Conservation Commissions. And that would be through Barbara Richter. Well, Lisa's on that group as well. I'm on that group as well, but there's not a fixed schedule. So groups get a hold of our executive director and talk a little bit about what would you like to present a program about. And those programs are scheduled really at the mutual convenience of the presenter, and if nothing else is on the calendar for NHACC. NHACC. And the topics have ranged from everything from controlled burns, how does that work, cover crops, easement monitoring, invasive plants. So it could be interesting as well to have a lunch and learn, similar to what you just did tonight for us, to let the people who are involved in subscribing and taking those lunch and learn programs to really learn what does FFA do. And for all we know, that would be somebody listening in on there would say, oh, we need some expertise in thus and such field, which you folks are learning about. But I would suggest I'll put that in chat, or Maria, we can talk later or something. But anyway, you can figure out how to contact the executive director of New Hampshire Association of Conservation Commissions. And I think this is a great lunch and learn and some more exposure and practice for these kids, giving these kind of programs and seeing where there's a fit or a niche or a connection.
I just had one quick thing. So this year, a lot of our members are doing a lot of stuff online and virtual. And so what we hope is, like, if you guys are doing projects or stuff like that, we can get our members out, out behind screens, out doing something good for not only the community, but conservation and the environment in their local areas. And so, like, if you guys are doing projects within your districts, reaching out to advisors would be probably the best way, because I know a lot of our members are willing to do stuff, jump into streams or make bridges that go across little brooks, stuff like that. And I think a lot of it would do a lot of good for them, especially this year since they're all stuck behind computer screens.
Would co-op coordinators be a place that we could go to get people to come out and work with us on an individual basis?
Cooperative extension?
No, co-op coordinators in the high schools. All the tech centers have somebody that places students out for co-op sites or work experience sites. Some of them many of them are unpaid. They're just, so is that, Maria, is that something that might be plausible?
I'm sorry, part of what you said cut out on my end. So you're wondering about contacting co-op coordinators at the tech centers about?
Yes, yep.
Okay. Yes, I'm sure you certainly could do that. I'm not sure how many schools are actively doing that at this point, especially with COVID, but certainly be worth a shot.
Well, if this wasn't a motivating session, I don't know what is. This has been really wonderful to hear. Any last minute questions for any of these officers or Maria? And we know how to find you, Maria, so we could stay in touch if after this somebody has some idea that lands in their head that they wanted to explore further. I know this little gizmo down here, which is applause reaction to put into the Zoom screen for the presentations that we've just had. And I think you guys did a great job of sharing the screens and sharing the airtime for this part of our program.
Yep.
So
okay, there we go. Thank you, Kaylee.
It's been great.
Our next guest tonight is grew up in Hudson and went to Elvern High School and was an FFA member. And yes, he's the big brother of our state FFA advisor, Maria. It's Shawn Jasper. And he was on the advisory committee at Alvern when I was the vocational director there. And the farm went from, with his advice and a few other people, we spent $24,000 a year of grain before we got started. And the milk check was only 10,000. So we knew something was wrong. So we scratched our heads, pulled the people in the Hudson area together, and the farm became profitable after 4 years. So he knows more than the chicken farming that he's well known for. He's also, as a Commissioner of Agriculture, Food and Markets, he's also on the University System Board of Trustees. So he gets to decide what tuition is for all of you as you move forward. So I'm going to turn it over to Shawn, and he's got some comments for us.
Thank you, Dick. And we can tell right away that you're from Vermont.
Well, I grew up in New Hampshire, and as a young lad, I wanted to go to Alvern from Hollis to take the forestry program. And my parents said that's for other people's children, and I wasn't allowed to go. And 40 years later, I ran the school. I showed them.
Yes, you did. But I said that because you used the Vermont agency name when you introduced me instead of the New Hampshire agency.
Oh,
name.
Okay.
For some reason, Vermont is agriculture, food, and markets. We're agriculture, markets, and food.
Oh, okay. I got caught.
So, and before I forget, I did want to say that I was very glad to see the tribute to John. John and I we're fraternity brothers, Alpha Gamma Rho, the National Agricultural Fraternity. And John was an active alumni. Saw him nearly every Founders Day in April. And I just learned last week. It was good to see him honored the way that you did, because I know what a passion he had for agriculture in New Hampshire. And since Maria got off very easy, I will share the story that I love to share, and that I actually had to bribe her to join the FFA by paying her first year dues and buying her a jacket. She did love the jacket. So I'll take full credit for her being advisor for all these years. I've been advisor as well at Alpha Gamma Rho since 1988. So I think there's something in our blood. Both of those things make us somewhat crazy. In terms of we are crazy doing what we've been doing so long. We both have a passion for agriculture, sort of in our blood, I guess. So I want to spend just a little bit of time talking about the Department of Agriculture, because I'm not sure too many people really do understand what we do, what our agency is involved in. I certainly didn't know the details that I do now, and believe me, I'm not going to go into those details. Other than the commissioner's office, which is really just myself, an accountant, and an administrative assistant, we do also run Food Modernization Act, because nobody else wanted that when I said we need to take that over in agriculture. So I have that inspectors out there looking at food safety, and primarily what the department is about consumer protection in many ways. Animal health is really about making sure that humans are protected against zoonotic diseases. There are many diseases that can be transmitted from animals to people, and so we have to be careful about monitoring that. So we do a lot of blood testing in the animal industry. Now we've also been given pet vending, which is taking up way more of our time than like it to, but we're responsible for that. We do the spay and neuter program in that division as well. Agricultural development tries to promote, obviously, agriculture in New Hampshire, and has many of the grants for specialty crops. And specialty crops are really things that are just normal crops for us, because what the feds consider to be specialty crops are pretty much anything other than corn and grain crops. So the blueberries, most vegetables and things like that are apples are specialty crops. And so we provide grants and try to promote those. Pesticides, of course, regulates all the pesticide use. Licenses all the people who are pesticide applicators, whether those are people from True Green and Chemlon and all of those places are putting the chemicals.
Shawn, your voice
out there.
keeps fading in and out.
Oh, I'm sorry about that. I usually don't have that problem. Is that better, Dick? You've muted yourself, so now I can't tell whether it's better or not. Okay, thank you. I'll try to keep a little closer here. Regulatory services is the area that licenses and registers all the pet foods, all the fertilizers, the feeds. I think we have something like 18,000 products we register in regulatory services, making sure that all the ingredients and all of those things are approved by the legislature for sale in New Hampshire. Again, we want to make sure that all the things that are going into our pet food and into our fertilizers and into the grain for our animals are appropriate. Weights and measures deals with anything that is sold by weights and measures. So we license all of the propane tanks, the oil tanks, the gas pumps at all your stations, regulate the sale of cordwood, even responsible for making sure that the amount of soda in a soda can or beer in a beer can is proper. Because think about it, if in a can, if you were to have somebody who was putting a half an ounce less in a can than they should, you probably wouldn't notice it, but that could make those companies an awful lot of money at the expense. And then our division of plant industry deals with all the greenhouses in the state and all the plant dealers, and trying to make sure that we are keeping the invasive insects out of the state. We very often find them coming in loads of plants, do inspections, and have to do quarantines and those. There's a lot of things going on there. The big thing in that area where I think we can probably do a better job of working with conservation commissions, and where we were just about to really ramp up a project primarily working with UNH, is on invasive plant species. And that's something that's concerning, or should be, to everyone out there. If you ever have the opportunity or been down near Hartford, Connecticut, it sort of looks like a foreign jungle down there. It no longer looks like a New England landscape because of the fact that the invasive species have really taken over the sides of the highways. We're working very hard to see that doesn't happen here, but we need some more partners in that. We're never going to get the money within our agency to do that. But I think if we all work collectively to try to eradicate those, we have the knowledge and some resources and the expertise to help everybody with that on the various ways of taking care of the bittersweet, the tree of heaven, and the various things. Bittersweet is really a problem, strangling off many of our trees and making areas unrecognizable. So that's one of the things that I really want to make sure that we put more effort into. And of course, the pandemic has really sidelined most of my projects, and the one that really was near and dear to my heart was money that I had been budgeted to purchase development rights, land, and I had $250,000 in last year's budget and $500,000 this year's budget. match, because there is an awful lot of federal money out there that we're leaving on the table. And so that's an area where I think we can do much better, but I had to give up that money because of the pandemic and crisis in the state budget, which, by the way, right now we're actually doing extremely well. Between the monies that we cut from the budget by order of the governor and just revenues in general, we're actually year to date for the biennium, we're ahead of target. We are actually in a situation where if things don't go south right now, we will be looking at a surplus for the biennium. Last I knew, we're one of only 8 states in the nation that are running it ahead. So things are looking good. I did put a request in, $150,000, and I think the request for the second year of this next biennium as a priority item outside of my normal budget. The governor has approved that, and we'll be putting that forward to the legislature. So we hopefully will be back in the game of buying development rights in New Hampshire. And I think that's very important, should be very important to conservation. And you all know state conservation is administratively attached to the Department of Agriculture. We also, you all know, sure, now money released to be able to hire a part-time administrator to work with 10 districts. So things are moving forward right now. I'm very pleased with that. And so, you know, as I look forward, and I asked Dick to give me a few ideas of what to talk about. And maybe I've talked longer than he wanted me to already, but I'll just touch on those questions. Conservation priorities for me have always really been in the purchase of protection of development rights. For decades now, coming from southern New Hampshire, I've looked at what we've done to the Merrimack Valley area with all the riverland there that has gone into factories and houses, and have just thought since I was a young man that future generations will look back at us and think we had to be the dumbest people that ever inhabited the earth because of the prime ag land that we destroyed, when there's plenty of other places where those same buildings could have gone, but there's not many places where we can grow our food. With an ever-growing population, that becomes more and more important. So for me now and in the future, preservation of New Hampshire farmland is our top priority. And part of preservation are soil conservation methods. Now, being an old school guy, there's nothing I like better to see in the spring than a nice field all plowed up, nice and black, brown or whatever. But I know that is not the best way to conserve soil. This is where I know that the districts have been doing a good job. Got to do better at using cover crops and not plowing up that soil and having it flow. There's a lot of work going on within the state to do that, and so that's a great way that we can conserve the soil. I get very frustrated with some people who talk about sustainable agriculture as if there's one group of farmers who practice that and another group who don't. We've been farming in New Hampshire for almost 400 years, and I think we've always practiced sustainable agriculture. There's never been a farmer that I've met that didn't care about his soil, never felt, well, you know, I'm just going to use up this soil and then move to another farm. So that's what farmers in New Hampshire do. We all practice sustainable agriculture. And I see that sometimes as a very divisive term. What are ag commissions doing in the towns out there? In the last couple of weeks, I've spent a lot of time working with a couple, in particular, one in Warner and one in Durham, where towns were proposing to do some things that were going to be harmful to the future of agriculture in those communities. And I'll work closely with people in those communities, understand what they can and can't do. Proposal in Warner, which had to do with agritourism, was shot down. Durham, I believe, made some important changes to that. I've worked with Pelham recently, where people in all the communities are worried about roving animals and noises and smells and things like that. And we've got to try as people in agriculture to be respectful of our neighbors. But at the same time, the neighbors need to realize that there are going to be certain noises and smells that come from farms that they don't care about. But those are the noises they can't do anything about. So those are some of the things going on there. And I think the priorities of the communities are to protect the right of the Ag Commission, to protect the rights of farms in their communities, to make sure that they can thrive. So I think the trends that are going on that we're going to see in New England, but particularly in New Hampshire, and I had predicted this in the beginning of the pandemic, that we were going to have a successful year for farm stands and pick your own. And for the most part, we did very well. Total for non-dairy applications for the programs we had for COVID, we only had 56 farms who received funding. So that's an extremely low number. We gave out just about, I think, just about $1.5 million to dairy, a low number, because people have really started to understand how important local farms and produce are, and they've really turned to this during this time of uncertainty. And I don't think they're going to go back when the pandemic is over to their old ways of doing things. I think they're going to really have appreciated freshness and the quality of the food they got from our New Hampshire farmers. And I think that's a great thing. But on the flip side of that, biggest challenges that we face in New Hampshire is the aging out of our farmers. We simply don't have enough young people coming in to sustain what we have. That's been really true of the dairy farms that we've lost this year. We provided a lot of funding. In total, I think we came up about $5.4 million to our dairy farms through COVID. We lost 4 or 5 farms in that time, really all because of health issues, aging out, and simply nobody willing to take over those farms. And so that's the biggest concern that I see, that I have, is how we're going to keep the farms that we have in operation, ever aging farmers. So I'll stop there, Dick, and glad to take any questions. And
thank you very much. Questions?
Commissioner Jasper, this is Lisa Moore, and to your point about people being savvy about moving next to farm, just this week I saw on BBC America that France is actually being very proactive in passing laws to basically tell people who've moved from the city to the country, shut up, you moved there, deal with it. So I'm very interested to read more about that, and because I know New Hampshire also had an initiative a while ago to be farm friendly. So I hear what you're saying.
it's we have the protections there to a large degree. It doesn't stop people from trying to find ways around it and make life of farmers very, very.
Any other questions?
There,
Okay.
now can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. To what the commissioner said, after we've just watched that wonderful presentation from FFA, and then looking around, there's no end to the number of young people who want to farm. It's the cost of beginning a farm, where they have no land, they have no, so they have to do a lot of very creative ways to begin farming. I think that's one of the major holdbacks of very enthusiastic young people who want to farm.
Well, you're right about that, to certainly to a degree, but there are a lot of difficult situations. There's an organization out there called Land for Good. The New Hampshire chapter is based in Keene, and they try to find matches, young up and coming farmers and farmers looking to retire. One of the difficulties that occurs out there, and it's not a New Hampshire problem, I think it's a human problem, is that a young farmer will come onto a farm trying to work and learn from the older farmer. Younger person has new ideas, and in many cases better ideas, and the older farmer doesn't want to let go of the way he always has done things, and probably his father did it before him, and it creates some real problems, and that's a big challenge in that process. The cost, of course, is very expensive, and that is why buying the development rights can be so helpful, because they provide the retirement needed by the farmer, but make purchasing of the farm much more affordable. But it's finding those matches at the right time, because often these decisions happen very quickly. The farmer will just keep going and then realize his body's given out, and in a month the cows are gone, land sold, or whatever. It's a process where everybody needs to be thinking about it and working in advance. Don't have a lot of time in many cases.
Complicated issue.
I've had students that would get an FSA loan, start with 20 calves. By the time they were juniors in high school, they were milking 20 cows. By the time they were seniors, they had 40 cows they were milking, and then they would go off and find some fields. They bought in the hay, they bought in the grain. They had absolutely no overhead at all. It was all cash flowing back and forth. So there are creative ways to get in the business. You just have to start small, and the best time to start is when somebody else is feeding you.
One thing I wanted to raise, if I could, Commissioner Jasper, on the question of purchase of development rights. One of the things that I've seen over the years, both here and in Massachusetts, is that the state and the feds come in, and some land trust money comes in, purchases the development rights, and the previous owner retires or whatever, with sometimes in some cases continues farming with the money from the development rights. But I'm not seeing any particular decrease in the sale price of the protected land down the road. Now in Vermont, we do see that because of how the Vermont Land Trust structures its ownership of the development rights, that it comes with a right of first refusal to purchase the land at its agricultural value. So that sets a ceiling on the sale price of protected farmland at its appraised agricultural value. And I'm concerned that if we don't start doing something like that in New Hampshire, that basically what we end up doing with public dollars that purchase development rights is just basically subsidizing a retirement, or not really meeting all of the goals of the development right purchase program, which involves getting making land ownership a more realistic opportunity for entry-level farmers. And have you given any thought to that? And if so, what's the skinny?
Well, I have to say, I have not heard of that problem. The properties that we hold easement on that I'm aware of are all still being actively farmed, whether it's owner farming it or having others use the property. So this is a new one on me, and certainly something to move forward. We should be considering how to structure that in a way to make sure that land is sold at the agricultural value to someone who wants to actively farm it versus somebody that could well be a concern. Somebody, Bill Gates wants to come in and just turn a 100-acre field into front lawn. So, thank you for that.
But what usually is happening is that people are buying. They don't particularly care what the agricultural value is. They care what the aesthetic value is. So they're purchasing at fair market value, restricted land. I know it's happening fairly regularly over on the seacoast, and I've seen it happen quite a bit in Massachusetts before I stopped being a journalist down there and moved back up here many years ago. But that Massachusetts was one of the first states with a state operated APR program, Agricultural Preservation Restriction Program, and some of those farms that the first APR dollars went to are no longer being farmed, and they just the only thing that they've basically done is preserved a large lot, which is not a bad thing in and of itself, but it's not really the intention of what the money was put up for. So thank you.
Thank you.
Any further questions? Well, thank you, FFA members. Thank you, Commissioner. It's been a great evening. There's lots of energy out there, lots of potential. There's lots of ways to get into agriculture. So jump in while someone else is putting food in you, get into it, and then get all straightened out so you can fly on your own or plow on your own, whatever you want to do. And with that, we will say good evening, and we'll catch you next month, first Wednesday of the month. Thank you.
Thank you, Dick.
Thank you so much for having us.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
All right.